Hi, my name is Richard, and I'm 67 years old. I thought my biggest heartbreak was losing my wife, Linda, 3 years ago. But I was wrong. That pain was nothing compared to the betrayal I faced from the very people I thought I could trust. My daughter-in-law tried to trick me into signing away everything I owned, my house, my savings, my life's work, with a single stroke of a pen. And the worst part? My own son Daniel stood there and let it happen. But what they didn't know was that I had one final move before I tell you how I turned that moment of humiliation into the most satisfying victory of my life. I want to know, what would you do if your own family tried to strip you of everything? Would you forgive them or fight back? Let me know in the comments, and also tell me which city and country you're watching from, so I can thank you personally. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true stories like this. I grew up in a small town where every penny mattered. My father worked in a steel factory. My mother did laundry for neighbors to make ends meet. I knew the value of hard work and savings from an early age. At 20, I got my first job as a construction site helper. I worked my way up for 40 years, eventually becoming a supervisor. I never earned millions, but I invested wisely and lived within my means. When I married Linda, we scraped and saved until we bought our first home, a small, 2-bedroom house with peeling paint and creaky floors. We worked hard to turn that house into a home. Over the years, we renovated it piece by piece, filling it with memories, laughter, and love. When Linda passed away from cancer 3 years ago, my world collapsed. For months, I couldn't even walk into the kitchen without remembering her making tea in the morning. But my son Daniel gave me a reason to keep going. When Daniel married Sophie, I welcomed her with open arms. She was cheerful, charming, and always eager to chat. She would sit with me, asking about Linda, about my younger days, even about my investments. I thought she genuinely cared, but slowly, her questions became sharper. She started asking about how much money I had saved, what was written in my will, and whether the house was paid off. At first, I dismissed it as curiosity, but then she started pushing Daniel to convince me to put the house in both their names. "Dad," Daniel said one evening over dinner, "why don't you add us to the deed? You know, just to make sure there are no legal issues later." I looked him straight in the eye. "Daniel, I'm not ready to hand over the house. This is my home. Your mother and I built this together." Sophie smiled sweetly. "Of course, Richard. We just worry about you. We don't want you to be alone." But I could feel something wasn't right. One Friday morning, Sophie showed up at my door holding a folder. "Good news," she said with a wide smile. "Daniel and I arranged some legal documents to make things easier for you. We just need your signature. Something in my gut told me to be careful, but I didn't want to create conflict." I agreed to go with them to the lawyer's office. When we sat down, the lawyer slid a stack of papers toward me and said, "Mr. Richard, if you could just sign here, we can finalize everything." I put on my reading glasses and scanned the documents. My heart sank. The papers weren't just formalities, they were property transfer deeds, legally transferring ownership of my house, my savings accounts, and even my retirement funds to Daniel and Sophie. I looked up, stunned. "What is this?" Sophie's smile faltered. "It's just estate planning, Richard. You don't have to worry about anything anymore." I pushed the papers back. "You tried to trick me into signing away my house?" "My life savings." Daniel shifted in his chair. "Dad, it's just easier this way. You don't have to deal with paperwork later." "Later?" I snapped. "I'm not dead yet. You want me to give up everything while I'm still alive?" Sophie's tone turned cold. "If you don't sign, don't expect us to take care of you when you're old. We have children to raise. You can't stay in that house forever." Her words hit me like a punch. I stood up, my hands trembling. "I'm not signing a thing," and I walked out. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring at the walls Linda and I had painted together, wondering how it had come to this. The next morning I called Mr. Thompson, my old lawyer and friend. "You did the right thing walking away," he said, after hearing everything. "If you had signed, you would have been legally powerless. They could have sold the house and left you with nothing. We went through my property deeds and accounts. Everything was still in my name, but Thompson warned me that I needed to protect myself. They might try again, he said. This time, be ready. Things at home became unbearable. Sophie stopped speaking to me altogether. She told my grandchildren, "Grandpa is being difficult right now. Don't disturb him." One night I overheard her whispering to Daniel, "If he won't sign willingly, we'll wait until he's too sick to fight us. Then he won't have a choice." I sat in my room, fists clenched, tears streaming down my face. "Linda," I whispered to my late wife's photograph, "is this what you would have wanted? For me to give up everything we built?" I knew what I had to do. I met with Thompson again and told him I wanted to lock everything down. Together we created a living trust, one that secured my house, my savings and my investments in a way that no one could touch them without my consent. But I added one more twist. The trust stated that Daniel would only inherit everything if he visited me regularly, treated me with respect, and never attempted to coerce me again. If he or Sophie tried anything like before, the entire inheritance would go to charity. "This will teach them a lesson," Thompson said with a smile. But I wasn't going to keep it secret. I decided to tell them myself, face to face. I invited Daniel and Sophie over for dinner. Sophie arrived looking smug. "So," she said, "have you finally decided to sign?" I smiled calmly. "Yes, I signed something, but not what you think." I handed her a copy of the trust documents. Her eyes widened as she read them. Her face turned red with anger. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," I said. "This house stays under my name until the day I die. And if either of you ever tries to trick me again, you get nothing." Sophie slammed the papers down. "This isn't fair." "What wasn't fair," I said, my voice steady, "was trying to make me sign away everything I worked for. You thought I was old and weak, but you forgot who built this house, who paid every mortgage payment, who raised Daniel." Daniel sat in silence, guilt written all over his face. Sophie stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Daniel stayed behind. "Dad," he said quietly, "I didn't realize how wrong this was until now." I let Sophie pressure me. "I should have defended you." "You still can," I said. "You can be the man your mother and I raised you to be, or you can let greed destroy this family." Over the next few weeks, Daniel started visiting more often, this time without Sophie. He helped me fix things around the house, brought the kids to see me, and even apologized in front of them for what happened. Sophie eventually returned, more subdued than before. One evening she said quietly, "I'm sorry. I let greed take over. I thought money would solve everything, but I almost destroyed this family." I looked at her for a long moment. "Respect is earned, Sophie. If you want to be part of this family, you need to prove that this apology isn't just words." She nodded, tears in her eyes. For the first time in months, I felt at peace. "Linda would have been proud of me for standing my ground. If you were in my place, would you forgive your daughter-in-law after such a betrayal, or cut her off forever? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true, powerful stories about family, respect, and redemption.